Welcome back to another Chef Knives to Go quick look product review. I'm Steve Gamache. What we have this time is the Yoshimitsu Fugen Shidogame or white number 1 Gyuto 240mm knife. So this knife has a 3-layer construction. The harder center cutting core steel, the cutting edge, is Shidogame or white paper number 1, reactive high carbon steel. Heat treat should be around 61, 62 Rockwell for that core steel. The construction is a soft reactive iron cladding on either side of that harder core steel. So this is an all reactive blade, cladding and core. There's no stainless on it. The cladding does have a kudo-uchi or blacksmith rustic finish on it as well for some protection. And it looks like it might have some lacquer on it covering it as well. The weight and dimensions will vary a little bit from knife to knife on these, but this particular one is 188 grams or 6.6 ounces. Edge length is about 243 millimeter or 9.6 inches all the way down the edge. And the overall length is about 390 millimeters. Spine thickness at coming out of the handle, it actually thickens up just in front of the handle, about right in here, and then thins up, but about 3.7 is what I measured, and then still about 3 millimeters halfway down. And it doesn't lose a lot of taper at all. It's a stiff blade, but you can see it tapers up where the grind kicks in quite aggressively, but the very tip is skinny, you can see, but it doesn't have a lot of taper up to that point. The choil shot looks like this. So you can see again, it thins up nicely at the very, very edge. It's quite thin at the edge. It's very thin at the edge. So they've gotten quite aggressive at the grind towards the edge. The blade height is fairly generous at 51.3 millimeters at the back of the blade, so there's lots of clearance here for your fingers. Handle's nothing fancy. It's a really lightweight oval. It's not a D shape, it's an oval hoe wood with the plastic resin ferrule on it. It's like a sleeve that fits over the top. So there's always a little bit of a jump here between the plastic and the wood. That's kind of normal. I would say you're going to keep this handle. You would want to seal that up because there's some gaps there. Stuff could get into, some moisture. You probably want to seal that up. Maybe seal the handle up as well so it doesn't stain. Handle circumference right here is about 75 millimeters, kind of a standard size handle. Again, the handle's light, so that brings the balance point pretty far forward. You could definitely put a custom handle on this or a little bit heavier handle on it and bring that balance point back a little bit if you wanted to. Again, the handle's quite light. So there's the balance point. There's my pinch grip. So it's definitely got some kind of weight forward bias to it with this particular handle. This blade is straight. It's fairly stiff because of the fairly thick spine. It's thin at the edge, thin at the very tip, nice grinds on it. Let's see, they've relieved the spine and the choil, so it's comfortable out of the box. It's got a fair amount of this kind of rustic look to it, but it's you've got a little bit of, you know, residual, some hammer marks here and there, some texture to the kudo-uchi finish. You can see some embossed kanji on the left side of the blade there. There's your core steel peeking through at the edge. Here's the right side of the blade. So it's got you know, a fairly smooth finish, but it's got a little bit of texture to it. You can feel it, you can kind of see it as well. I get a good choil shot here, or a good shot for video. Let's see, what else? Cutting board. Let's see what this thing looks like on the cutting board. Very few steels sharpen as easily as Shidogame number 1, so this thing will just sharpen up like an absolute dream and get stinking sharp. It's a fairly curvy profile, so you can see they've got a fairly aggressive belly towards the back, kind of a rolly profile on it, and then the tip's fairly high. Keep twisting my cutting board for some reason today, but so I can get pretty high on this thing as far as, you know, rocking. I can get way up in there, so this will rock nicely for you. I wouldn't say it's a chopper. You can see the back still fairly rocky as well, with some back belly to it. So that's what the profile looks like on this bad boy. But it's a big blade. It's fairly light for its size, and it's an interesting, kind of a lot of blacksmith character to it. So it's a very interesting knife. It is all reactive, so plan accordingly, but really cool blade. If you're learning how to sharpen, Shidogami #1 is awesome because it makes you feel like a sharpening champ because it just gets sharp. It's not a lot of work to get it to get nice and sharp. So highly recommend if you're a new sharpener. It will make you feel like a champ. Like I said, it's good stuff. So this is the Yoshimitsu Fugen Shidogami or white #1 Gyuto 240mm knife.